Okie doke, we will go ahead and get started. Okay. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the January 2022 listening sessions for the California Truth and Healing Council. We have general listening sessions this week, with the first taking place on Monday today from 1 to 2:30, and on Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The council will hold a regular business meeting of the Governing Council Friday at 1 p.m. We encourage you to attend the meeting Friday to engage directly with the Governing Council members. My name is Christina Snyder, and I'm a member of the Dry Creek Rancheria Band of Como Indians and the Tribal Advisor for Governor Gavin Newsom. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that the land I'm joining you from is the homelands of the Patwin peoples. I'm first going to briefly walk through some of the logistics for today's session. First, we're recording this listening session, and it's available for public participation via Zoom and dial-in. The recording and summary notes will be available on the CTHC meeting page and the blog when they're ready. For those that are interested in following the council, ongoing updates, including listening session recordings and the listening session summary documents, are available at the California Truth and Healing Council updates blog at catruthandhealing.com. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of the Tribal Advisor on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, are available at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. If you've not already done so, we would appreciate if you could update your name to let us know who you are. And as we get into the discussion portion of today's session, we'd appreciate if those who are comfortable could go on camera. We're going to start with brief introductions of those of you who have joined us, and then as always, we'll dive into a quick overview to get everyone up to speed on recent updates, and then we'll go into the listening and discussion portion of today's convening. If you'd like to speak at any point, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. And if you're using the Zoom app, you should be able to raise your hand using the app controls, but you can also use Alt-Y in Windows or Option-Y on Mac to raise or lower your hand. If you've dialed in, you should be able to raise your hand by pressing *9. You can also email comments to info@catruthandhealing.com at your convenience. Now, before we begin, I'd like to remind participants that all of our council members, council staff, and many of you are members of the population in need of collective healing. So I ask that you engage with the council, our office, and each other with respect and with your whole heart in a healing mindset. Many of us doing this work are navigating systems that were not built for us to make change that was never contemplated. This in itself takes an enormous amount of patience and emotional integrity, and we're all doing our best to make strides in these spaces. So thank you for joining us, and now feel free. Well, actually, I'll call on a couple people first. Council Member Lucas, would you like to say a few words? And then we'll introduce our office, and then folks can jump in as well.
Yeah, I'll just say good afternoon and welcome to the new year. Hopefully it'll be bright and shiny as it is today down in Southern California, and wishing everybody well.
Great, thank you. And Loretta, would you like to introduce yourself at this time?
Hi, everyone. My name is Loretta Miranda, Chief Deputy Tribal Advisor and Special Counsel for the Governor's Office. Today, I'm joining you from the ancestral homelands of the Cahuilla people. I am Serrano Cupeño, a descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians, and happy to see you all here today. And one thing I don't know if we mentioned, but we are recording this session. The recordings are available on our YouTube page, and just want to flag that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Loretta. And we also have Michael Park on from our office, who keeps us sane. And if you ever need to get in contact with us, you can also just directly message Michael, who can help us find a time to meet. So at this time, if there's anyone who'd like to introduce themselves, or if you've brought anything with you today that you'd like to kind of say at the top, we are happy to allow you to unmute your line. You can go on camera, introduce yourselves, and we'll give it just a couple minutes, and then we'll go into the presentation. And then you'll also have another opportunity later if you do not feel like introducing yourself right now. Happy New
right.
Year, Robert.
Happy New Year to you too, both of you, Loretta, Christina. Just back, had a nice couple weeks off, and now something that can't come up down here at CSUSB. They just hired me on as the elder in residence. I know, huh? I'm an elder. Okay. So anyway, just to keep that open, I start February 1st. So anybody down here in Southern California in the IE, if you need help at CSUSB, just contact me and I'll have to get my email out. They haven't given me that yet. So just something to do. And then NEHC had their meeting Friday. I can go with those later, a little bit later on. Education wise, AB 1554 is being renewed. So hopefully it'll go through the assembly sometime early this year. What else was there? Ethnic studies is still pushing through. And I'm trying to think who we are. There's a liberated ethnic studies component that we're developing American Indian or California Indian curriculum for the ethnic studies graduate for graduation high school. So just quick overview, and I could talk a little bit more later on. So thank you guys. It's good to see everybody.
Thank you, Robert. And I do need to chat with you, and maybe I'll even bring it to this group. My cousin contacted me. He's down in Southern California, and his daughter in 4th grade just got an assignment to dress up as a 49er, a missionary, or there's one more that is equally offensive. So we'll have to chat about that at some point. And she's
No
Navajo, so.
Oh, no problem. We'll do. All right. Talk to you guys later.
Greg, would you like to introduce yourself to the group? Yeah, or are you just going on cam? You don't have to. Okay.
Oh, there we go. I was having problems unmuting. Hi, I'm Reverend Greg Schaefer of the Morongo Moravian Church, on the Morongo Reservation. I'm here mainly because most of my church members are either Serrano Cahuilla Indians here. And so I just want to learn more. I'm also working on encapsulating the journals for the Moravian missions in the Southern California, which would, if I can get them all correctly, include Morongo, Torres Martinez, Rincon, a little bit of Saboba, Agua Caliente, and a few others that I don't have at the top of my head. But so that's what I'm doing.
That's great. Thank you and welcome. Chairwoman Bill, and congratulations.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janet K. Bill. I am the Tribal Council Chairperson for the Picayune Rancheria of Chukchansi Indians. We're located in Coarse Gold, California. This is my first time here to the council, so I'm just excited to hear on all the future endeavors that you guys are working on and how we can assist here at the tribe. So thank you for having me.
Thank you and welcome. We have a raised hand from the Gemmel-Charlesworth, which I think is your last name.
Hi, it's Victoria. I just wanted to say hello real quick. I'm not feeling well right now, so I don't want to talk too long, but just thank you for having me, and I'm grateful we can come together for the council. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves to the group or say any words at this time? Councilmember Lucas.
Okay, am I on?
Yes.
I don't know that this is appropriate or not, but I'm going to tell you a story anyway. I retired from the Marine Corps in 1974. I was stationed at Barstow in 1970. My mother passed away that year. But that was also the first year they celebrated Martin Luther King's Day. I don't mean to take anything from him. He did a lot of good and said a lot of good things. But as an Indian, I get really tired of everybody celebrating and making up for the wrongs of all these other nations. So I said to my boss, a major at the time, when are you going to celebrate Geronimo's Day? And he looked at me and he didn't say anything. He went back to his office. About 3 weeks later, he called me down to the office, and we had about 35 civilian personnel working for us. They were all in the office, and they were surrounded at a table. On the table was a great big flat cake with a picture of an Indian on a horse, and it said, Happy Geronimo Day. And he gave me a 72-hour pass to take a leave. I've never forgotten that. That was a great day. But I asked the question, when are we going to wake up and collectively across this nation insist that we be recognized for the good that the Native Americans have given this country that claims to be the proudest and the strongest in the nation? Percentage-wise, I think there's more Native Americans who have served their country and served it well. There are many things that we have contributed. We're not stupid. We have lawyers, doctors, all these professions. We've contributed a great deal to this country. I think it's time that we would start asking to be acknowledged in that positive tone. So that's what I would like to say.
Thank you, council member. That's very well said. And something for us to reflect on. And I will note we are recording this time, so we may take that and have that be a clip for folks to hear on our YouTube and on the website.
When I die, you play that on my grave. I want somebody to do something about it, okay?
Well, we don't want to quite think about that. We'll play it while you're still alive, I think. Any other thoughts, comments before we get into the presentation? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and share our updates. And Loretta, I'm going to trust you to kind of work control. Oh, Kathy, did you want to say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I don't know if Michael passed on my concerns to you after the past meeting. By the way, I'm Kathy Corey, a CTHC, just enrolled from Picayune Rancheria. But I didn't receive any notice about the charter meeting where the governor spoke, and also with past ambassador to the United Nations Indigenous Rights Council, Keith Harper. And when we have a lot of tribal, civil, and human rights violations going on right here in California, I think it's important to notify people that a meeting as significant as that is going to be occurring. I didn't find out about it until a week later. And so I would just like to suggest that in the future, maybe all meetings could be notified, not just the listening sessions, because I was very sorry to have missed that. So, and I had asked him to pass that along to both you and Loretta. So.
Thank you, Kathy. And I do want to maybe just speak a little to that, because we do send out notice for everything. That meeting took place in 2020. So notice was posted and should have gone out, but we will probably have both of them in one of these meetings that's coming up soon. So we'll make sure that you're aware of that as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was unaware of that, the fact that it did occur in 2020, because it just kind of popped up and I was like, well, what is this? So.
Oh yeah, we've been getting all of our stuff in order. So we posted all of the past recordings and on the YouTube and in the same place. And so we've also I'm going to kind of walk through where everything is today, so everybody knows how we've reorganized things to make it a bit more intuitive. But yes, that recording is from the first meeting of the council, even before Councilmember Lucas, when we had an opening. So I do encourage all of you to take a look at that meeting. It's very interesting and illustrative of what the quarterly meetings will kind of look like on the hearing days, where we invite folks to think about some of the things that can be done. And that meeting, again, was a very high level, what could something like this look like? So if people want to re-engage and refresh, it's a really good way to think about kind of the mission and the long-term idea for this council.
Thank you so much, Christina.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else like to have a comment or? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And for folks that didn't introduce themselves to the group, if you'd like, you can also put your introduction in the chat or any thoughts you have in the chat if you're more comfortable. Or if you are more comfortable meeting with us one-on-one, we are happy to accommodate that. Or if you want to send us a chat directly, you can also directly chat to Loretta or me, or send something to Michael for a follow-up. Sorry, the Zoom controls tend to go right on top of where the slides show. Okay. Do I need to flip this, Loretta?
Nope, you're good. And I'll control the waiting room.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. So again, photo credit to Loretta. Where was this taken? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I'm sorry, I was struggling unmuting. This is on the Klamath River in Happy Camp.
Great. So with all of our meetings, we like to start with the council meeting principles, just to frame how we're going to talk to each other and treat each other in this space, especially because some of the topics under conversation are sensitive, and also everyone comes to these meetings with different backgrounds, so may unintentionally say things that may strike some participants as potentially offensive or insensitive, and conversely, some folks may be at a different level where they're speaking about things in a way that may go over other folks' heads. So we just want to make sure we're all kind of coming into this space with an opened mind and being careful about how we treat each other. So in order to create a space where participants feel welcome, respected, and able to speak comfortably, we'll uphold the following principles in all convenings of the council. We ask that all participants, which includes council members, authorized representatives, staff, moderators, and the public, work toward their sharing in their stewardship. So if you're a participant in a convening with the council, we ask that you engage in the work of the council and with others in an open and respectful way. Engage in behaviors that will make others feel welcome. Take care of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and seek support as you need it. Respectful engagement, what does this mean? Affirm the person and critique the ideas. Provide feedback constructively and with the intent for mutual growth and healing, and welcome feedback and challenges to your opinions. And this is that same idea of everybody comes to this space with different background, different education, different types of ideas about the world. And so when we talk about this work, we're acknowledging that everybody comes with different things. And so we want to make sure that we're not criticizing people for expressing thoughts, ideas that may reflect a different kind of way of seeing the world, or different education or different resources available to them, but that we talk about the ideas that they're proposing in a way where we can kind of mutually grow, and they can also incorporate new ideas into their worldview. Avoid contributing to assumptions or generalizations about tribes, tribal communities, or other groups. Do not ask individuals to speak for their perceived group. Speak only for yourself. And offer participants the benefit of the doubt. Spirited discussions are expected on these topics. See this as a sign that folks are engaged and care. And remember to be respectful as you speak, read, and listen. And I think what can be helpful in this space especially is to, if you hear something that is triggering or causes a reaction, to kind of think for a minute, take a beat. You can even go off cam, go on a bit of a walk, and then think about how to respond to something like that, or whether you need to signal to me or Loretta that we need to be addressing something that's come up, just so that we're kind of giving each other some space to react, and for us personally to think through why we're feeling those feelings as well. Honor confidentiality. Do not share others' experiences or information without permission. And really what we mean here is people are going to share experiences, memories, personal accounts that are not necessarily shared in this space for other people to share. So we don't want there to be any co-opting of people's experience, backgrounds, or stories, unless someone has explicitly given you permission to do so. Assume that you have relative privileges and both explicit and implicit biases. Know that others may or may not have had similar opportunities, experiences, and background as you. Recognize that their contributions are equally valuable. For those from dominant identity groups, refrain from contributions that prioritize dominant experiences over those who have been marginalized. Welcoming behavior. Make behavioral adjustments for virtual communication. If you wouldn't say something to someone's face, refrain from saying it virtually by voice or text. Know that use of strong language, capital letters, and exclamation marks can easily be misinterpreted online as unwelcome yelling or aggressive behavior. And remember that tone does not carry via text. People might not realize that you're joking or being sarcastic. Sorry, did we just have a Board of Supervisor enter?
I believe we did.
I think we have some congratulations to him too. I think he just was voted chair, but we'll get to that momentarily. Remember that tone does not carry via text. People might not realize you're joking or being sarcastic. Leave space for others to engage and express comments and ideas if you have spoken recently by letting people finish their thoughts before adding new ones. Another thing too on Zoom particularly is that micro expressions carry and are very loud on Zoom because we're so close to each other's faces. And so, you know, eye rolling, sighing, things like that are also forms of communication that it's just important to be careful about what you're expressing. And take steps to ensure your physical comfort. Some examples in virtual meetings include shifting your sitting or standing position often, taking a purposeful deep breath regularly, raising your eyes to look beyond the screen or sit back from the computer when possible to relieve eye strain. Keep a glass of water nearby and take sips throughout sessions. Consider physically leaving the computer during breaks. Participate as you're able to and adjust your presence as needed, whether that's turning off the video or stepping away entirely. It's not expected that all participants will or should be present for the entirety of the council's work. We know that and support that you'll take time to eat, take care of your families and pets, but be aware that virtual convenings will be recorded and available to the public. Set up supported resources such as food, water, ergonomics, and privacy while offloading responsibilities if possible in advance of convenings. Plan for breaks and stick to them. Seek support from your own networks or from provided resources as needed, and please alert our staff to any concerns as soon as possible. We recognize that participants bring their entire selves and histories with them to the council, and that topics explored during the course of this work may stimulate emotions and thoughts that would benefit from accompaniment and support. Although trauma responses can come from a variety of sources and contexts, the council understands that those who have experienced disparate treatment due to their native identities may specifically want to seek assistance related to historical trauma and related issues discussed with the council. Council staff will be providing supportive resources for participants to be available for the duration of the council's work. So today, we're going to go over the council and its charge, talk about the agenda for Friday, go through subcommittee updates, and then talk a bit about the regional meetings. And then we'll go into listening and discussion, where we have put all of the questions that we've put out for tribal consultation that we're also modifying for public engagement as well. So what is the California Truth and Healing Council? The council is a council made up of representatives from California Native American tribes charged with bearing witness to recording, examining existing documentation of, and receiving California Native American narratives to clarify the historical relationship between the state and California Native Americans in the spirit of truth and healing. And really what this is part of the charge is shifting the lens that we view California history through to account and to elevate the experience of California Native people, understanding that history can be a tool of colonization, in that whatever story is then promoted ends up being the narrative and the baseline for the experience of that place. And really what we're trying to do, and what the council is attempting to do, is to shift what that baseline is, to be more inclusive of the people that are still here. The council is led and convened by the tribal advisor and is governed by a governing council of California Native American leaders, and may include additional non-voting representatives from California Native American tribes, relevant state and local agencies, and other relevant non-governmental stakeholders. The council will submit a final written report of findings to the governor's office by 2025, and it should reflect a holistic understanding of the historical relationship between California Native Americans and the state, and can make recommendations aimed at reparation and restoration, and consider how to prevent similar depredations or policies in the future. The council welcomes and encourages all available methods for public participation, including attending and observing all meetings of the council, submit written comments or written statements to the council, make oral statements and testimony to the council, participate in interactive dialogues, panel discussions, and informal meetings, organize and host affiliate events on issues relevant to the work of the council, and join the work of the subcommittees. If you're a California Native American tribe on the list maintained by the Native American Heritage Commission, we're seeking to begin initial consultation meetings. And if you're not on the list, we'll also consult with you. So I didn't want that to be a qualifier, but wanted to indicate that we are consulting with all tribes in California. So you can reach out to info.tribalaffairs@gov.ca.gov if your tribe is ready to meet. We're flexible about the method and mode of meetings, and meetings will be recorded, or sorry, these meetings are actually initial meetings, which we aren't recording. We do take notes, but we kind of put it on tribes whether they'd like to have them recorded or not, with the idea that the tribal submissions at the tribe's request will be recorded and included into the record, if that's the preference of the tribe. Tribes can share as much or as little as they are comfortable with. Outside of tribal consultation, the governing council and the tribal advisor's office are available to meet with Native American individuals, organizations, and groups at their request. We also have a call for oral histories. The council is currently seeking to conduct interviews for Native oral histories, particularly from elders, and can provide you with assistance in providing submissions. Please contact us at info@catruthandhealing.com, expressing your interest in submitting an oral history. And some of the things that we've heard in some of our consultation meetings are that there are existing recordings of elders that may have already passed, and we would like to, if there are submissions that you think are representative of your community or your tribe, we would love to have those as well if we have permission. Any submission on behalf of a tribe we'd like to see with an official letter or an official resolution, just indicating that it's a submission that we have the permission of the tribe to include. But again, if you have anything existing, or if you'd like us to come and help, or if you'd like us to provide you with materials so that you can do a submission, we are happy to do any of those. The governing council is currently meeting on a monthly basis, and it's virtually until further guidance is issued from the state. And so the reason that the council can meet virtually is because there's some waivers of open meeting laws, which typically require an in-person open meeting. Right now, those waivers have been extended through the end of March. So this council can continue to meet monthly for business, at least through March. And right now we have some tentative dates. Well, the first one is not tentative, but of January 28th and March 4th for the next business meetings. Starting this year, we'll also have some regular quarterly meetings, which are the 2-day meetings, kind of like that initial meeting with Governor and Ambassador Harper. And we are endeavoring, to the extent we are able, to have at least kind of a hybrid meeting, but we are continuing to watch the situation with COVID and transmissibility and want to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe as well. So at a minimum, we would like the governing council to be able to meet each other in person, and would like to potentially have folks that are submitting things to the record to be able to attend in person, but we are trying to be mindful of keeping numbers down so that we are not putting people at risk unnecessarily. So we'll keep everybody posted for the first quarterly meeting, which is intended to take place tentatively, but we haven't quite announced it yet because we're still watching the COVID conditions over March 17th and 18th, which is a Thursday and Friday. We'd like to keep the Friday, but if folks have strong feelings about whether a Thursday or a Saturday on either side should be there for the more talking circle community-based component, we're open to having it on either the Thursday or the Saturday, depending on when folks think would be best for participation. So for Friday, we'll have our welcome, roll call, and traditional opening. And as always, if anyone from the community would like to perform the traditional opening, we're open to folks joining us to do that. We'll then have council member updates, go over the regular meeting structure, locations, and topics, and then have subcommittee updates and community input on education, the deliverables, subcommittee, elders, funding partnerships, academic partnerships, the youth council, and the status and identity subcommittee. We'll then go over the consultation request and the timeline for responses, which has been extended to the end of February. So for tribes that have been getting their affairs in order over the holidays and post-holidays, you have until February to at least tell us you're interested in talking, and we can set up those meetings. And then we'll talk about the next meeting date and topics, and then we'll open up to public comment. Typically, we will start public comment firmly at 3. But in the past couple of meetings, what we have been doing is encouraging folks to come for the subcommittee portions and submit public comment based on the subcommittee that is under discussion. So depending on how many comments we get throughout the rest of the agenda, we may push public comment to a little bit later than 3, but we will end at 4. We are continuing to work with the governing council and subcommittees to finalize contracts, provide training and tools for the council, the strategic planning document, and other policies and procedures. We're also building out subcommittee work and materials. So those are all still in process and will be in process for the next few months. And we should have some announcements in the next few months as well, prior to the March meeting. So I'm going to pause here and see if there are any comments, or if Loretta, if you have anything you'd like to add.
No, the only thing I'd like to add is the tentative plan for the in-person meeting will be in Sacramento. And that's the March 17th and 18th dates that we're planning cautiously, depending on the COVID-19 situation. But nothing else to add.
Great. And so with that said, we will be having some targeted outreach to the Sacramento area tribes. So want to make sure if there are people in the area that those tribes think would be a good fit to speak to the council, or if there's anywhere where a tribe would like us to come and do almost a virtual storytelling. We talked to one tribe who we thought about the idea of, there's a place where a pretty awful massacre took place, and the tribe would like to tell it from their perspective rather than what's, everybody reads about. And so we've been thinking about having, smaller moments of filming from the tribal perspective about what that kind of means and what it meant to their people in these places that those events of awfulness happened. So if there's any interest in that in the Sacramento area, we'd love to have those conversations as well. We've had a couple folks join us too while we were giving the update. If anybody would like to introduce themselves or have any thoughts at this time, we are happy to have you introduce yourself.
Does that mean me? Hello, everyone. My name is EJ Crandall. I am enrolled in the Robinson Rancheria tribe, but I'm also the chair for the Lake County Board of Supervisors. And I seen this in one of my emails. I figured I'd listen in. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Welcome and congratulations. Would anyone, Connie?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Connie Collins. I'm a council member for the Shasta Indian Nation.
Welcome. Thank you for joining. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves at this time? Or have any thoughts they'd like to share with the group generally before we get into updates? Okay, then we will keep going. And I will share my screen again. For those of you that also want to see faces, you can slide the slideshow as well. Okay. Does that look right still? Okay.
And then the bar that Christina was talking about, it's in between the PowerPoint and everyone's faces. There should be a little line there. You can kind of just drag it over if you don't want to see the PowerPoint so large.
Great. So the Youth Council. So this subcommittee was created to create a parallel track for youth to engage with this kind of work, understanding that their perspective is going to be a lot different from what a lot of the folks that are on the governing council and engaging in this process is, and their perspective on what the legacies of that history is going to be completely different as well. We're also hoping to have kind of a logical link between some of the, the elders and the youth to make sure that we're facilitating some intergenerational storytelling, cultural transmission, and just facilitating cross-generational understanding, if nothing else. And so that's kind of the goal with this youth council, is to create a space for youth to really define what this work means to them. And then also for them to engage meaningfully based on their priorities with both the governing council and the elders subcommittee, which we might want to call the elders council. But so the big update for the Youth Council is that there's a youth conference series that we are starting under the Truth and Healing Council. And it's kicking off this week on the 26th from 3 to 5:30 and on the 27th from 4 to 6. The final agenda should be posted, by end of today, Loretta?
Yeah, we're hoping by the end of today, the final agenda will be up, and I'm going to put the registration link in the chat.
Great. And so if any of you know of any California Native youth who would like to be engaged in this, I'm going to go over a summary of it, so don't worry. I might answer some of your questions, but we'd love to just hear from California Native youth, whether they are actively participating in their tribe or not. I think we want to have kind of a good diversity of youth kind of thinking about what it means to be Native in California in 2022. So this is the inaugural conference, and it's meant to be kind of an ongoing series that'll be held over the next year to learn, reflect, and develop the future roadmap for Native youth by Native youth across California, and also to kind of develop what the youth engagement in this initiative will look like. So this conference's theme is storytelling. And we're reaching out to California Native artists and storytellers to help build tools for meaningful intergenerational relationship exchange within our communities to preserve culture, ensure health, and build a vision for a bright future. So the link should be in the chat. And really, we're bringing in folks who have backgrounds in directing, actually generating stories so that the youth can tell stories of their own, and to create some digital content to kind of communicate what their experience has been as well.
We are
Elders, oh, go ahead.
we are asking that youth register by the end of today. I think there may be some flexibility on that, but try to get those registrations in as soon as possible. Thank you.
Great. And then the Elders Subcommittee. The Elders Subcommittee is still looking for a couple of regional representatives from both the Central region and the Eastern region.
I think we were looking at Northern too.
Yes. But Councilmember Harper is Northern, I think. Well, they're looking for more representation. So if you have folks that are interested in serving with the Elders Subcommittee, we would love to get those recommendations. And really, a lot of what the Elders Subcommittee does is think about how to frame this work. And also we are looking at that intergenerational communication and understanding, and would like to basically have the Elders Subcommittee work very closely with the Youth Council to help kind of transmit some of those values and create better understanding of what our people have had to go through and continue to go through. The other update for the Elders Subcommittee is, as I mentioned earlier, the Elders Subcommittee is looking for oral histories to be captured as part of this project and as part of this initiative. And so we will be putting very shortly on the website some guidelines for submissions of oral histories if folks want to do that on their own, given the COVID umbrella that we are all under right now. But we also are willing and able to come and meet with you and capture those stories as well. So just wanted to put that out there in case you know of any elders or if you know of any recordings that should be submitted to this process. We're also actively working with the State Archives and the California Museum because they have an oral history project that they did a little while ago that we are hoping to link with this initiative as well. Any other updates that I'm missing, Loretta?
No, I think we've got it covered.
Okay. Councilmember Lucas, would you like to add anything?
Okay, am I on?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I guess what I'd really like to emphasize the importance of the elders. You know, number one, I think we asked the question, what is the elders? I asked a young man the other day, how many elders do you have in your tribe? And he looked at me for a while. This was a 20-year-old man. And he says, I have 2 elders, the rest are old people. So we have a lot of work to do within this community up and down the state. What I'm truly concerned with is the factual history of California Indians. And I think I'm 86 years old. I shared a father who grew up with his mother who died at 90 and a grandmother who died at 120 in 1914 or thereabouts. So we're talking about that transition period. Archaeologists refer to it as a recent prehistory time, which I really dislike that term because it implies separate people. And for me, my understanding is California Indians have been here since time began. So the real question is, when did it begin? But I'm looking at folks in my general generation where you still have the flavor of those who were in personal contact with those during the transition time. You still have folks who were probably young during the termination period, particularly those California Indians in the northern part of the state where you had millions of acres and the government forced you all to put liens on those properties and you ended up losing them, and many of you lost land. I say hoorah to those who are still living on their ancestral land. So it's that kind of history that I think if we're not careful, we may lose it. I think it's important to put that to record. I believe in documentation, and I was happy to hear this young man really stress how important he thought documentation was. He volunteered that. I didn't have to suggest it at all. So we have a younger generation out there that's thirsty for us elders to share what it is that we've learned through our own life experiences. So I just really want to emphasize that. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Council Member. We really appreciate it. And one thing too that I'd like to emphasize, aligned with what Councilmember Lucas just mentioned, is that, you know, there's some question about the significance of oral histories and what it has to do with the beginnings of statehood. But I think the experience of all of our elders and all of our old people is so intrinsically tied to the experience of survival from that point in history. And so the interaction with their elders is one piece of it, but also the experience of, I know Councilmember Lucas mentioned the experience of, you know, growing up in a place with no electricity and things like that. I think the experience of growing up native in a place that has basically exiled you in your own land is so intrinsic to what this process is. So I think even if it doesn't feel completely connected, all of it is part of the same fabric of choices for survival, people trying their best in a place that is basically wanting and has had the goal and continued to have the goal and potentially still continues to have the goal of having everybody kind of assimilate or go away or not be who we are. And so I encourage all of you, even if you don't think you're an elder or that you have something to add that's specific to this initiative, I think we would welcome those submissions regardless. We have a raised hand, Patrick Burt.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Burt. I'm an enrolled member of the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California, as well as a direct descendant of the Tule River Tribe. Currently, I'm in the 4th year of my doctoral program in history, and I'm actually inquiring about American Indian genocide, particular to my own people. But one thing that I'm curious about, and I'm hoping that you're able to provide some answers for, are intellectual property rights. So this accumulation of oral histories, these interviews, or whatever the mechanism is for gathering oral testimony, particularly from elders, I'm hoping that there's some protective mechanism for what's happening with those oral histories, especially in terms of getting oral histories that are accurate, because I know our elders are hesitant to share things a lot of the times. But I think a more effective methodology for gathering those things would happen if we're able to ensure that what they're sharing is theirs, and it will always be theirs, regardless of what happens in the future with where the things are stored. And then there's questions of access and distribution. So if those things haven't come up yet, I'm hoping that people are thinking about them in the future.
Thank you. We absolutely love that comment. I know Councilmember Lucas would like to respond, and then I'll respond also.
Okay. Am I on? Thank you for bringing that up. You know, I'm a bit naive in spite of my age and being halfway around the world. I never think of that kind of stuff. You know, we get bogged down with white modern grab all thinking today. So I guess the younger generation has been assimilated enough to recognize that you have to protect things. On the other hand, I've learned over the years that secrets really aren't helpful. If you don't know about something, you can't protect it. I realize this thing is on the ether, so it's probably going around the world, whether we like it or not. So we don't have anything here that's really confidential. And so it's troubling for me, because I'd like to be honest and really express what it is that I think might add to the important history of the California Indians so that future generations can benefit from the philosophy of staying alive irregardless. We don't need to get something in return. See, that seems to be the mindset today, is protect something so that we can get something in return. I have a hard time with that, but you got to remember, I live on my ancestral land. I don't have electricity and I don't have access to computers. I have to come down 70 miles to have access to this computer. So I'm not crying the blues. I'm just trying to articulate to you that, yes, if you have some constructive criticism, such as this, protect your intellectual property, that is valuable, and we need to think about that. On the other hand, because this is for the California Indians, because this is for the youth of the California Indians, I pray to God we don't assimilate them too much to where they're afraid to ever talk about what is real, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. That's part of life. Life's not fair. And many of us have gone through so many different struggles. We all have our own burdens to carry, but it's those burdens and the survival from those burdens and still maintaining a sense of happiness and a sense of personal dignity that I think comes from the ability to look back and hopefully help other people, particularly the younger generation, when they're begging you, please tell me what I need to know.
Thank you, council member. And so Loretta and I are attorneys by trade, so we thought about the cultural property thing just because it was a flag for us as well. And so what we are doing, which is also mindful of Councilmember Lucas's urge to make things more transparent and more truthful, and this is a truth and healing council, so we should be putting the truth out there, is that we're trying to create kind of two paths for people who want to submit oral histories. So either you can submit it through one process, which means that it will be public and open and in perpetuity for as long as the state has it, can be accessed publicly. And another path where if there are concerns about the material, if there are concerns about potential names that you might be naming, if there are concerns about even, we know sometimes the hardest thing to do is to share things that we know our family will hear about, even if it is the truth and it is our experience. We don't want our family to see us differently. So we're thinking about that second path, having mechanisms also for keeping things secret for a number of years, kind of like how the feds declassify, national security files after a number of years, because it has probably less of an impact on global markets and security after that time. And then also mechanisms through that second path for potentially creating those cultural property protective mechanisms whereby if people want to access it, it's not private forever, but it's private until permission and some sort of agreement is reached between the parties seeking to access and the parties that have provided it. So it's a long, convoluted answer, but we're trying to accommodate kind of all of the different types of needs, and then also understand, which I think Mr. Burt was expressing, that there's kind of a history of extraction without any benefit, and sometimes with a major loss to the Native community that the information was extracted from, or a reframing of what the message was because it's being told by someone not from the community, rather than like the actual context and what it means coming from someone from that community. And so we're trying to create mechanisms that at least hopefully, if at the submitter's option, they can protect those or frame them appropriately. But great comment, great question, and we'd love to chat further on that. And I don't know if you've been in touch with her, but I know Professor Riley at UCLA has been doing some of that cultural property protection work for some time, and might be helpful as you pursue your doctorate. Any other comments on the elders or oral submissions?
Wong Wei, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Funding partnerships. So we are in a partnership with, or not a partnership, we're in an agreement with, or not quite an agreement. What is our relate? We're in a relationship with the Decolonizing Wealth Project that's led by Edgar Villanueva. And he is working with the Funding Partnerships Subcommittee to stand up a community fund for the Truth and Healing Council. There is a good chunk of funding right now for community needs that once the Funding Partnerships Subcommittee kind of gets organized around how it wants to allocate that funding, will be open for grant making. Likely to tribes and nonprofit organizations for tribal members, but also Native people generally. So just putting that out there that there should be a bigger announcement about that soon. Anything else I should mention on that, Loretta?
I think in terms of soliciting feedback from everybody, just to be thinking about the current needs that you as an individual or your tribe might need in order to participate in these meetings or provide testimony, oral histories, just to keep that in the back of your mind, because that's something that we really are interested in hearing about on a continuous basis so that we can utilize those potential funds for grants to cover those sorts of things. So other than that, we're good.
Great. Status and identity. We are still seeking someone who can help moderate these conversations. And really what we're looking for is someone who is well versed in the history of California, but also potentially doesn't bring the any kind of like community association that would be alienating to folks in this space. This group is looking at issues of membership and enrollment and how those issues of status and identity impact Native peoples. Number one, how we got here from the genocide and from all of these destructive practices over time, but then also what can be done basically to help make people whole. And so we are looking for a person or a group that can help us facilitate those conversations, with the idea that this group will bring will generate both that report, but also with recommendations. Those status and identity lenses will be applied across the work of the council, but this is to kind of give a very focused look at what needs to be done now and how things got this way. And also to really kind of look at what is a California Native American as we all think of it collectively, that isn't really based on governmental principles that were imposed on Native people, and just kind of give us a better working definition across California to facilitate better relations with each other, I think, so that we can move forward collectively. Loretta, would you like to add anything there?
Nope, I think we covered it. We're really just looking for folks that can facilitate these tough conversations that have, there's deep wounds here, but we want to have someone that can help us facilitate these conversations to move towards, recommendations of policy changes and whatnot on that scale. So, but yep, we're good.
Thanks. Okay, education. This is still forming, and I believe they're still looking or figuring out a process for adding members. So again, we've already kind of de facto decided that Robert is a part of this, but we will have a formal process that will come out of that subcommittee. And each of the committees, they determine membership kind of based on what the committee needs are. So the committee generates its own process, really. So once that's ready to go live, we will go out to all of you. Chairman Crandall?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little late on the discussion. I just wanted to discuss that with the was it membership and enrollment, that issue. I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with Robinson brought back some people that were disenrolled from tribes and whatnot. I also, when I was still the tribal chair for Robinson Rancheria, I offered at different agencies different discussions and forums where we could look at some tribes may be wanting to do that. I've been approached by different tribes that are looking, and forgive me, I know some people may be on this meeting it's still in them. Believe me, I've lived this whole thing about disenrollment, but unless we get past that hurt and get to a point of fixing this and finding the different ways around it, it's the only way we can get somewhere. And so for me, one of the things that I offered was to help people that are either trying to establish their identity or those that are trying to make room for people that they know should be in their tribe, or in general, talking to the state or federal government about implementing different bans. For example, we have 7 tribes in Lake County. However, in Lake County, we also have, when you look at the original map, there's at least 15 to 20 different places where our tribes could exist. And so for me, I understand why we historically were that way, because even in my tribe, as much as I love it, there's times I don't want to be a part of it, and I just want to start another one that was called Blue Lakes, or it was called Hilehana at one time, but they've all been meshed together because of the Termination Act and all of that. So we have to identify these things that happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that put us into this position where we're all kind of just like, we're upset at each other, but we're not realizing we were put in a position to do so. So we have to stop focusing on each other and looking at, okay, how can we recraft this and make it work for us, rather than taking out each other and becoming the product of assimilation. So sorry if I took too long. I just wanted to state that.
We're actually mostly here to listen, so you can take much longer if you like. Thank you. That was very helpful. And I think that's part of the goal of a lot of this work too, is to think about a lot of the issues we have with each other are actually issues that have been imposed on Native people to make choices that are impossible to make. So for example, when I think about certain tribal lands and the fact that like modern tribal councils have had to make the choice as to whether to, preserve homeland or to have, something that's going to generate some source of, financial stability for their tribal members so that they can go to school and do other things. You're creating impossible choices that are going to create hurt feelings and hurt sentiments and have people disagree. And that shouldn't be a choice that Native people have to make when this place used to all be our lands. So I think that's very much aligned. And I think we may want to reach out to you to kind of have a discussion about that within this context as well.
Excellent.
Any other comments, feedback? Great.
It's me.
Is that Robert?
It's Robert. Of course, it's education. It's got to be Robert.
Sorry, I can't see your face.
Uh-oh.
Oh, now I see you.
Oh,
Okay.
darn it. Okay. Well, anyway, my wife, Mary Levi, is on Truth in Learning right now. And we're both with the California Teachers Association. And again, she's the chair of the American Indian Alaska Native Caucus right now. And so again, looking at what Council Member Lucas was talking about in terms of the accurate history, we'll make sure that it is accurate. I mean, I rest assured, Council Member, we will make sure that what we put down when AB 1554 is passed will be factual, and whatever we put together, hopefully coming from the rest of the California Indian history teachers, again, not so much as the theorists in college, but more so to us grunts down in the classroom, and hopefully we can get more members on as Truth and Healing gets more the word out there, or the Native American Heritage Commission gets the word out there, because and even our local Native American City Council, I guess, down here in San Bernardino, Riverside County, just talking about the parents that are concerned with what's happening in our classrooms, with the math teacher down here at North High School in Riverside. And I totally forgot about the San Jose professor who was handling a Native American skull and had skulls in the background when she was doing a tweet. And then also Cal State Long Beach with their misuse of the land down in that area. So again, we'll get as much factual information that we can. But again, with what my wife would be talking about is storing it and having it available for non-Indian teachers. So again, there's a couple items that we need to look at and hopefully get some ideas. So that's basically where we're sitting in terms of the issues that confront the daily classroom that she's part of. And I guess that's what I'm going to try and get into a little bit later on in terms of hopefully training California Indian or American Indian students to become teachers. Again, that's still my main push. So again, just keep you guys aware of what we're trying to do for our not only our Indian students, but also for non-Indian students. So just a blurb. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And in that same vein, I saw that, and now I'm pulling this out of my head, so it might be not quite accurate, but that Claremont is having a scholarship for Native people who are trying to get their teaching credential as well. And so I encourage folks to Google it because I just got that announcement, I think a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, they've had that before, I believe. And Mary, if you want to jump in, because she graduated from Claremont Graduate School, Claremont Graduate University, whatever, and she was over at Pitzer, so she'd probably know a little bit more about that than I would. But again, we'll keep on fighting the fight and keeping all you guys in mind. And again, just a real quick, NEHC was kind of crazy on Friday. I think this is just my opinion. I think they miss you, to be honest. But again, with 5 new commissioners, and like Laura wasn't there, Miranda wasn't there, so Pegling had a really fun time getting that up and going. But they got through what they needed to get through. So I think they do miss you. So take care.
Thank you, Robert. It looks like Mary does have a comment.
Okay, sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm kind of going back and forth. Hi, so I'm Mary Levi, and for the Claremont one, Claremont the university is offering, has a teacher credential along with that. It's attached to the Masters of Education program too. And what they've done, and I think there's only 2 or 3 colleges that got the grant in California that is open to all Native students who have received their bachelor's and want to go into education. It's a free ride. The grant is for, I think, up to I'm not quite sure how many students, but I think the last time they had a group of 7 students from all over, from Arizona, from California, from New Mexico, and they had offered them to a teacher credential, which is also attached to an internship when you go into that teaching credential. So you get hands-on education on what to do in the classroom, as well as it puts you in place to finish out a master's. So it's a great program. The thing is that some of the kids had really a tough time, especially being out of state. They wanted to go back home for ceremony, but it was really difficult to go back home and be out here, especially when the pandemic came into place. And so it was a difficult 2 years, but I encourage anybody to go and apply, and that's a great program. So just picking back off of that. And then also from Robert, it was looking at what's in the classroom to be making sure that all educators have access to great curriculum, especially that emphasizes California Indian history, current and past, and then for future reference so that they understand what sovereignty is, they understand why why science is so important, especially our connection and the native thought to science. So, and in literature and in all curriculums. So that is what AB 1554 kind of opens that door towards. There's many, many people who write good curriculum for educators. The problem is they're so out, they're not easy access, and they're up and down California, and they're not available to people who are in the classroom, and they don't know where to look unless you do really deep research into it. So that AB 1554 also opens the door for people to house those curriculums that are vetted from the tribes and from educators that are good, that are needed from the tribes that are being said in the classroom. So with that is kind of our focus and for the next steps. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We usually see you running around the background, so it's great to hear from you.
I know you're always in my kitchen. Thank you.
One other thing that came to, well, it's been around, but I saw there's an online database that NMAI has that has kind of a baseline curriculum on Sovereignty 101. And then another thing that I just saw was announced is UC has a budget for some basically like open source like materials for students to learn more about Indian country generally. Repatriation and a couple of other different items. And that's something that I think that this council could potentially speak with them about, given that a lot of what we've heard, at least in the academic space, is thinking about having an open source space for California Native scholars to put some of their stuff into. And so just wanted to flag that for folks. Kathy, did you have a comment?
Yes, I have a question both for Mary or yourself. I don't know if either one of you can answer this, but I was wondering with this teacher credentialing program grant, whether that was going to have a requirement of being a member of a federally recognized tribe, or whether that could apply to state recognized or non-recognized ancestry Indian people. Do either one of you know?
I'm not sure, Mary.
I think, I'm not quite sure, but I did know that when I looked at the application, it did say federally recognized, but I don't remember if it continued to say or a descendant of. So because it was a federal grant, I have a feeling it's really just federally recognized. But that's
thank you very much.
Thank you both. And then just as a flag, I think California Indian Nations College is also still looking for adjunct professors, and then also some other folks. So if folks are interested, you can Google that as well. Deliverables. This is in process, but just so folks are aware, this group is basically tracking the asks that have been made in the listening sessions and in the meetings and throughout this process with consultation and the like, and is also developing its own measurable goals to be accountable to. Really what it's going to do is create something kind of like the Canadian Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. So they're actual, detailed, specific policy changes, legal changes, things that need to happen in order to address ongoing and systemic issues that stem from the genocide in California. That's what this committee is ongoing working on. And then academic partnerships is almost about ready to kind of put it out to academic partners, different institutions, to be able to work with this group. And so their goal is really to bring in other institutions to both have fellowships to assist tribes, for example, to assist this process, but then also if there are groups that this council wants to partner with, just because there'll be a hub basically for some of the work that's happening. That's what this subcommittee does. And then just as a reminder, in March, the council will begin its regular quarterly meeting schedule. So we will send out updates on that. Day one will be dedicated to a talking or healing circle, which is meant to be a space where people can share and process collectively in community, where we all have kind of this same through line that we're all descended from a population that had an active genocide against it. And we'll have in those spaces folks from different kinds of healing spaces. So traditional healers plus Western types of healers, and then also folks that can help people with behavioral and mental health services, and just kind of help walk folks through how to process some of the ongoing issues and historical trauma. And then we also seek to have assistance in programming around these meetings. And so if you have ideas for Sacramento specifically, like you think that there needs to be, focus at Sutter's Fort, or you think that there needs to be an actual segment where, one of the local tribes has, takes folks through a certain place, we'd love to hear about that. And for any region, really. And then we're also going to have regional hearings throughout the state that are outside of the regular meeting schedule and more about focusing either on a topic, on a specific tribe, or on a specific historical event. So if there's something that particularly happened in a certain geographical area where all of the tribes were impacted, we would love to facilitate a hearing in that space. And as I mentioned, if there's an opportunity to go and have the tribe tell that story on the site from its own perspective, we would like to have that discussion as well. So I'm gonna open it up. I also want to show folks a couple of new changes on the website so everyone can be on the same page. But if folks have anything that they'd like to comment, feel free to do so at this time, or you can put it in the chat. I also wanted to update folks, in case you were unaware, that the state, and of course I don't have it in front of me, the state is facilitating, let me pull it up. They are facilitating compensation for forced or involuntary sterilization. And there's certain requirements, but it's basically for people who lived in state-run hospitals, homes, and institutions through 1979 who were sterilized and unable to have biological children. And then also folks who were in custody of a state prison or other correctional facility after 1979 and were forcibly or involuntarily sterilized. So I'm going to put the link in the chat in case anybody knows of people in our community who that happened to, because it did happen to a lot of our people. And then I'm going to share some of the updates to the website and try to only take about 2 minutes so that if folks have comments, I'm not cutting anybody off. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. So we did a couple of updates to the website at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC, and I'm still working out a couple of formatting issues. So if you have issues, I'm working on it. But we have tried to make it a bit more intuitive and a bit more streamlined. And so the about is substantially the same and talks about the governing council. And then the meetings page has all of our 2022 meetings with agendas and materials. We will be getting the minutes up there because we realized we haven't been posting them. So those will get finalized and posted for past meetings. And we also have listening sessions. The link is typically always the same. So if you need to find the link, it links out right above the listening sessions and you go to the blogs page where you can just click on it. And these are the sessions that we have scheduled for this point in time, and we'll add more details as we go. In future iterations, we will also put the agenda, and then all of the summary documents will be posted here and the recordings here, and I'll show you a example of that. Materials, we're going to start posting these slideshows as well so that folks have them after the fact. So anything we didn't get to or anything that you wanted to take a closer look at, those will be posted as well. Or if you want to share with your communities outside of the context of this, you can go there as well. 2021 meetings are posted here. So we haven't put them in a separate archive. We're just putting them all on the same page with agendas and recordings available here. We'll post the minutes here as well. And then listening sessions, we've got the reports here. And if it looks like there's not enough, it's because you have to click next. And then you get others. You can also search central, for example, and then you get all of the central regions, or you can say, I want to look for May, and these are for 2021. And then the 2020 meetings, this is the one that the governor and Ambassador Harper were at. So you've got day 1 and day 2. And then we have the overview webinar from October 2020. We've also created a subcommittees page, and that gives you also the contact information for each of the subcommittees. We are working on developing a page for each of those subcommittees as well, so that when there are updates or if there are folks that want to join, you can easily click to those. And then the community page we've updated just to kind of consolidate where things are. So requesting consultation, we may change this a bit, but we've left it for now. Resources is the same, just updated. And if there are resources that you think should be here, we'll probably start also adding some of the publications that are original materials to this place. But here's some resources, including the publications of this council. And then updates links directly to the blog. So if you have trouble finding it, you can go straight to the blog. And if you subscribe to this blog, you'll get all of these updates as soon as they're posted as well. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. Am I missing anything, Loretta?
No, and I think so. Christina updated the website to be a little more user friendly, so we can have all the stuff in one spot. But if there's anything that you guys have feedback on, or if you think that there might be a certain place on the website where we could post helpful information, please let us know. But also be patient, please. I think Christina is also wears another hat, which is our IT person, and is updating the website. So again, just appreciate your patience, and I would love to hear feedback on the website when you get a chance to look around at everything.
Great. So any additional comments, questions, feedback at this time? We're at about time. But so we do have another listening session on Wednesday night. And if you have other thoughts, we encourage you to submit them as well. And then Councilmember Lucas, do you have any parting words before we close for today?
I guess not. I think I probably already said more than I probably should have today. But again, it's a new year, new beginnings. I'm worried we haven't had much of a winter. That's not a good sign. But we are in Southern California enjoying the weather. So I guess we want our cake and eat it too. But I do wish everybody well. please think about these issues that we bring forward, and hopefully something good will come out of this without continually crying the blues. I take this minute just to share with you, we keep using the word genocide. I commented to one of the younger Indians probably 2 or 3 years ago. We want to be careful we don't wrap ourselves up in that, and it creates more hate and anger. The reason I'm finding that word so uncomfortable, every time you use it, I envision the Jews going through the gas chambers. That's not what happened in California. We were truly mutilated in all senses of the word, and we're still suffering from that. So it's a different scenario, if I can say that. And again, I've learned over the years that the English language is an art. I don't pretend to hold that art, but I do think it's important that we recognize even us dummies think about words and how they're used and how we envision what's really being said. So just a thought. And again, I wish everybody well and a great new year. Thank you.
Thank you, council member, and thank you all for joining. We really appreciated this discussion, and we'll see you soon. Take care.